it was like a normal day in Kabul. Like I remember before that, Taliban took over 400 districts, and like some provinces were under the control of Taliban in that time. But nobody expected that they come to Kabul. In the same day, I had a flight to Istanbul, and I could never imagine that how my journey is gonna change. But I was at my apartment like the normal days, was ready for my trip, and then I was in my balcony and saw all these Taliban fighters downstairs, and turned on the TV. I saw that Kabul was take over by Taliban, and then everybody were freaking out. I was crying, calling my parents.
For today's interview, I sat down with Fatimah Hossaini in New York City. Fatimah is an award-winning Afghan photographer, human rights advocate, and fierce storyteller of feminist strength in war zones. Known for capturing the resilience and beauty of Afghan women through her lens, Fatimah challenges both cultural taboos and global narratives. From dodging threats at home to speaking on global stages like UNESCO, TEDx, BBC, and Women's Forum, she's turned resistance to art and survival into power. Let's hear her story. Welcome to the show. Fatimah, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Fatimah Hossaini. I'm a photographer, curator, exhibitioner. I was born in Iran, in Tehran, but originally from Afghanistan. I studied industrial engineering, and then I started photography, my second bachelor at Tehran University, and then decided to go back to Afghanistan in 2013. So since 2015 and 2021, I was between Kabul and Tehran. I was a lecturer at Kabul University and founded my organization inside Kabul and worked on my photo series in Afghanistan for like more than 5 years. And yeah, unfortunately, after the collapse of Republic, I have been forced to leave my homeland, Afghanistan, to France. And I lived in France since 2021. And now I'm a visiting scholar and a researcher at the School of Media, Art and Technology at the New School.
Amazing. So also, I'm just going to look at here. So
Okay.
I'll look at the camera here.
Okay, I
So
look
you can look at it.
at Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction, Fatimah. You were born in Tehran and to Afghan parents and faced challenges related to your identity. How did these early experiences shape your perspectives and also influence your journey into photography?
Well, actually, my grandparents left Afghanistan during 8 years, and I grew up kind of and was born in exile, and I have never been recognized as an Iranian, as you know, regarding Iran law, and this identity crisis were always a part of like my life, and I was always thinking that where is this country, where is Afghanistan on my passport that I have never been, but I always introduced and always recognized as an Afghan woman. So this journey of migration, and when I like listen to the stories of my parents and my grandparents and all the Afghans I see around, and all these things like were like shaped my journey to think about migration, gender, and also what does it mean to be a woman from Afghanistan.
Right. And you mentioned that even though you were born in Iran, you didn't have an Iranian passport. And as far as I understand, your parents didn't have Iranian passports as well. So it's not just you were born in exile, your entire family, your entire ancestry is born in exile.
Exactly, like that's the thing, you know, when you like this identity crisis that I'm talking about to you, it means that when you were born and live and want to integrate and fit into a society, into a country, but on paper you're from another country that you have never been even. So that's the hard thing. And I mean, I don't believe in geographies and this stuff, but I mean, people say that it doesn't matter, but it matters, you know, when you have been rejected to participate to so many competitions, or you don't have the same right as a citizen of that country, then you can understand that how hard it is to live and to have this illusion that you are from there, but you are not from there, in fact.
And I understand that you also had a few siblings, so you have a few sisters, and everybody reacted to that identity different. So could you describe to me a little bit of like how you reacted to it and how your sisters reacted to it and how different it was and how did that determine you guys' different journeys later on in life?
I think it quite depends on this curiosity and in these challenges, and also like, I mean, what matters to you, you know, and it makes sense. So the thing is that my sisters could completely fit into the society, you know, they completely integrate. And if you today see them, you see that how much Iranized they become. Or I saw so many, especially new generation of Afghans in Iran, that how much they also integrate, and they just, we have it there in cinema, in best universities, and in so many other places. But I think during my time, when I was a teenager, I could see that how it affected my life, because I was rejected and ignored so many times, even by my very close friends, you know, at university. And mm, that bring this question for me, because in that time I had this illusion that I am from Iran, you know. So my heart is there. I mean, I have the influence of Iran in my life, but the thing is that but on paper I was from somewhere else, and in so many places I was rejected and ignored because I'm not from Iran. And but I was from Iran, but not on paper. So I think that's like also hurt me, and also in that time bring up so many other things, and also like the old reason that I went back to um, my own country, Afghanistan.
Right. And then so you moved to Afghanistan to after your college, after you studied industrial engineering, and then you became a photographer in Afghanistan. Was that correct?
No, actually, I mean, I started photography in 2012, and even the last year of my study at university, when I was studying industrial engineering,
Right.
I mean, I used to go to some classes and started photography, but not that much serious in that time. I mean, I used to be a painter since I was a teenager, you know. I mean, I think I had this artist's side quite in my life, in my heart and inside me, but nobody took it serious in that time. And that's why, like my family, like other typical Afghan families, was thinking that being an engineer or doctor or lawyer means that you can have that recognition better than being an artist.
Yeah, well, so it's funny because I'm Chinese. I was born and raised in China, and how in East Asian culture, and also like South Asian culture,
Yeah,
right? Where
yeah,
if
exactly.
you're a doctor, engineer, or anything stable, that's supposed to be a good job, and that's
Yeah.
supposed to be something that you're supposed to do. But I didn't know that in Afghan culture and also Iranian culture, that was also true.
Of course, even it's worse, you know, like, to be honest, like, because I remember, I mean, when I started photography, I remember I see my mom's friend, or even my mom was questioned, like, why you left for industrial engineering? Why you don't want to be an engineer and be a photographer?
Yeah.
You know, like they were looked down to that. And even when I went back to Afghanistan, like when I was talking to even like very high position people,
Right.
they were like, what did you study, Fatima? And I was like, I studied photography. And they were like, oh my God, we have it in the university. So imagine, like,
Yeah.
it's so far, like the concept of, I mean, my circle were so far from imagining and see your future in
Yeah.
art as well.
So, what made you take that leap? What made you say that, engineering, I like arts, I like painting, and I'm going to explore photography and I'm just going to go be a photographer against all the pressure?
So, in fact, like when I was studying industrial engineering, the whole like 3.5 years that I studied my first bachelor, I was depressed. I was sitting in mathematics classes and that I had no idea why I'm studying that. And like the way that I wanted to express myself, I never could do that through engineering, right? So I think there were like crazy energy inside me that I didn't know how to express my feeling and to bring it on papers. And I remember I was drawing like my professor or like some students when I was even in mathematics class when I was studying engineering. So there were an artist living inside me, but I was not aware of that and I didn't take it serious. So I think through photography, I think I have more like this speed of photography, digital photography, and also the way that I can convey my message for me was important that I went through that.
Right. So basically, you taught yourself photography, and was that correct?
I mean, no, like I started it from classes. I had like, there were some, like institutions in that time before I started it academically in university.
Yeah.
So I went to some classes like, to learn the like basic photography and buying my camera and then, yeah, but in that time it was not that much serious. I mean, I never thought that I can one day study at the university, because I knew like how much challenging it would be for me. But yeah, I mean, in that time I was so young, but I was brave enough to stand in front of these parents and also so many other things in that time that my friends were starting their master degree, they were going abroad, they had their jobs.
Yeah.
But I started from zero, from another bachelor and also in art that I don't know what is going to happen.
I mean, that's so courageous because when everybody was advancing their academic career, you were going back to square one and you were studying something that everybody was like, what the fuck? Like, why are you even doing that? Is that even, something serious?
Yeah.
So, what inside of you was driving that decision? And how did you just like take that plunge and did it?
Um, I think, like I had always this, I mean, this capacity and this soul of being a fighter, or I don't know, like uh, defend myself, my emotions and my dignity and whatever I want. And in that time, I think that energy that I had encouraged me to go through that. I mean, um, actually, like everybody say that always that if you want to be a successful person in society, it all started from the family, from a little circle that you were born there, right? And you grew up. And I think my fight, my everything started from that little circle because first I had to convince my parents that I'm going to do that and I will make it. And please just give me the space to study whatever I want, not whatever is in your mind. And
But you need to convince yourself first. Was there a voice in your
no,
head?
to be honest, I was quite sure that I'm going to be successful in photography.
Really?
I mean, I don't know, but at least for myself, I knew that it can satisfy me and I have a medium that I can convey my message or I can show myself and, I mean, express myself, my feelings and capture whatever I see. Because even when I was painting, I remember I used to take photos with my phone from some places and I used to paint them, paint my photographs. So I had this feeling that I want this, but I mean, photography is my main medium. But I mean, when you are in art, like sometimes like videos, sometimes photo creating, the whole like the shaping of all these ideas that can shape that final goal. I think it matters. It's not just one medium.
Right. It's a way to express yourself, and because you can see the immediate outcome of that expression, it makes you like it more than say painting, which is slower.
Exactly.
But also, I'm just really curious because you know how a lot of people, especially if they were to do something unconventional, like jumping from something stable like engineering to photography, they won't want to have that proof. They were like, "Oh, I wanted to know whether I'm going to like work out, I'm going to be successful." they want to see, like, maybe I will get internship somewhere, you know, like they need to see the evidence of them doing well before they even take the chance on themselves. How come you, it's because it sounded like you just liked it and you're like, I have fun doing this and I believe I'll be successful. Or like, how come you didn't need to have that evidence and proof? Have you thought about it?
No, actually, I didn't. But I mean, you know, like, I can tell you one thing, Crystal, before anything else that, I mean, before like even thinking that where I am standing today. So the thing is that I believe, like, really, like, from bottom of my heart, that if you believe in what you do, you know, so you will get it. I mean, like, that energy will open the way for you. So in that time, to be honest, I have never think about that. How can I make money from photography or from my art? Where I'm gonna go, when I'm gonna where I'm gonna travel? Like, I never think about this journey. Like, I mean, to plan for that, you know, and especially when I went back to Afghanistan, like my main project started there. So that feeling that I had with the portraits of women that I photograph them, I like the women, the way that I met them, like the sisterhood shaped, and all these like portraits of women were so spiritual feeling for me, you know. And I think I were just like there to capture that, and that convinced me in that time, satisfied me, and I was so happy from bottom of my heart that I could capture that, you know. And I really didn't care about the rest. So, and then my photos like were everywhere, and I mean the exhibitions, and it happened quite in a very hard and broken time for me, but mm I knew that it will find this way, you know, because I believed in that energy of those women that I photograph and my feelings when I was behind the camera. And it was so pure, you know, that energy. And I think when you see art or your works like that, so I think that energy just like opened the way for you. You don't need to try or just like fight a lot or just like, you know, overthink or I believe like in that it all depends like what you are seeking for.
Right, right. It seems like you are very sensitive to the energy that you put into your work and also how you feel. And also in the meantime, how your object, how they feel. And you, as long as that energy you feel like it's moving in the right direction, you will have that faith and belief in your work. And because you don't like that, that energy itself is proof to you that you're on the right trajectory.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm just, to me, because the reason I was even trying to understand it is because, you know, I came from a business world and
Yeah.
a lot of people I know, they're very left branded, right? Like they want to do a lot of analysis and planning before they can even put their money behind the idea. So for them, it's so boring that even if you know, you don't see, like you haven't seen anything yet, and then you just believed in that idea, you believe in that energy before it even manifested itself in the world. But I do think I kind of understand what you try to talk about because I moved from, you know, a very left-branded way of thinking to now like very similar to your way of thinking, and just believe that like my own intention. And I think that, were you born that way, or was there something that happened that made you that way? Because engineering was a very left-branded.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think whatever happened in our life, like of course, like it can change your direction and also made everything quite different for you. But for me, yeah, my decision to go back to Afghanistan, you know, and to get back to my roots and my homeland and find out that resilience that I always were looking for, that in the life of women of Afghanistan, and like quite change that mindset and also my feelings. And it was, I think it was something that I was looking for that for a long time, but I couldn't find it in my comfort zone, you know, and in the place that I grew up, or I don't know, it was not that place that I was looking. So that's why in Kabul, like everything were quite different. And it took me back to that, to think that how I can be happy with nothing and just be grateful for whatever I have, and how much that energy that you believe into that, I mean, matters, you know. It's not just about that you have everything, then you should be happy. Right. Sometimes in the middle of nowhere with nothing, with even not electricity, so you can find that happiness and peace.
Right. And I agree a lot with what you said. And it took me like 30 something years to find that. I, you know, what do you think was the thing that was missing when you were in Tehran, when you, before you went to Afghanistan by yourself as a young girl and started to take pictures of the war zone? Because again, you know, that will blow a lot of people's mind.
Yeah, right.
When, you know, it doesn't matter, even it's a guy, right? It's already will blow a lot of people's mind. And then you're a young girl, you're in your early 20s, right? And then you just decided to pack your bag and then go to a country where you didn't even grow up in, but you believe that was something that you were missing. So what do you think was the thing that you're missing that you couldn't find in Iran? And how did you find that in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I think that sense of belongings, you know, that sense of, I mean, like, you know, like still it's a part of my research to find out that how these roots and the meaning of homeland and this emotional and also logical part of your body and for your brain, like take you to the journey and to way of thinking that you just think about you want something or you need that or it's inside you, like, so that sense of belonging for me was so important. And um whatever was missing in Iran, like such a like great question you asked, but I was just thinking about that, you know, and I think a part of that was this sense of belonging, and that Iran never gave me that feeling, because imagine I was between among my friends, and I counted myself one of them, you know. So I could see that how in the middle of conversation they were referencing like some like crazy stuff like into Afghans, or like thinking about or talking about other nations, or like, you know, like or mention that yeah, Fatima, you can't do that, unfortunately, you know, like they just like showed me in a way that you are not one of us, you know, just keep it in mind. So in that young age, so it was so hard because I was feeling that I wanted to fit myself in, you know. But the other thing, it was this independency, you know. I think for me, as a young girl, that finding myself into that complicated journey, and Afghanistan is not a very very easy thing to deal with, you know. And whenever when I think about it, I don't know like what I was thinking, like when when I went back, and how my parents let me to go back. So I mean, because we had so much security problems in that time, so many explosions, so many target killings and stuff. But the thing is that independency, you know, I thought that as an artist, I had so much like distraction inside Iran, and I was in my comfort zone and all the time challenging to convince my parents to have like this, to go to school, so many of these things, you know. But in Kabul, I found myself like far from everything, with nothing, and just blame on myself, you know, because even I remember when I didn't have money, or when I wanted to work on some, and when some explosion stuff happened, I mean, I even couldn't call my father, because immediately he was like, okay, come back. Why you there? Why you are there? So, so many like things that I handle it with my own like energy and on my own, you know. But I think, yeah, the two things that I think took me back, that was that sense of belonging, that I believed in that. And also I was looking for that independency with no distraction, and just do whatever I want to do.
So when you called your dad and be like, you know, there's bombing happened and it's not safe. First of all, like, I can't even believe your parents let you go. How did you even convince them?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my father didn't pay for my ticket, you know. He said, like, if you want to go, go. Just like book, if you have money, book your ticket and go. And I had an aunt in Kabul in that time. So she was also a big reason that I was like a little bit um, comfortable, that at least I have her there, you know, before finding friends and my community. But Yeah, I mean, every time. I mean, in these 5 years, the last 5 years of Republic that I lived in Kabul, I remember, Crystal, that every time when I was going back to Tehran, my mom was crying at the airport and she was like, please, like, what if you don't go back again? What if you stay in Tehran,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, but anytime, every time I was more like, I had this desire to go back.
I'm very interested in what keeps you there, right? Because it seems like everything is against you when you were
Yeah,
in Kabul. It's
yeah.
not the best of times. It was dangerous, and your parents were very concerned. So, what was the force inside of you every single time when you faced with adversity, and also maybe you were probably scared as well, right? Inside, what's the force that what's the voice that told you like, hey, stay here, don't listen to them?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. In that time, it was also like life in Kabul was not easy, especially for a young Tehran-born, Iranized Hazara minority girl who had no idea that much where is Afghanistan, and not so many access to so many places or, I mean, so many other things. And also, I had another challenges with some people that they believed that I'm more Iranized and I'm more from Iran than Afghanistan, So they believe that what I'm doing there, you're not even from here, So they didn't even accept me as an Afghan. And I was like, um, I don't know, like in one side of the world, they don't accept me as an Iranian. And in here, in my country, they don't accept me as an Afghan. So it was complicated. But I think the only thing that kept me in that time in Kabul was this my love to my homeland, my this love that I had for Afghanistan and for my people, for that land, So it was a like magical thing that I still didn't find the language. But I just want to give you an example that if you read Rumi, and he's such a spiritual poet and like a person that I always my reference in life. So when he was in love with Shams like pissed him off a lot of time, and did so many things to him. And then, but he was a real lover as well. So when Shams left Rumi, that love stayed still with him, but he taught him so many other things, So I think for me, Afghanistan was that Shams that he was there for a like short time and showed me that love and changed my life and so many things happened. And then he left forever, but that love is still here. And for me, that's so spiritual feeling. And Afghanistan have been always in my heart, even if today I cannot go back and somehow I lost the land. But the soul of that land will always stay with
It
me.
transformed you.
Yeah, it absolutely,
Yeah, yeah, and
absolutely.
it's like that missing piece that you were looking for when you're growing up.
You're right. Yeah, I think I found that peace in the middle of nowhere
Yeah,
with nothing.
yeah, it's very incredible. How do you cope with the emotional weight of documenting war, displacement, and oppression when you are in the land that you love?
Yeah. So actually, like one thing that Crystal, I want to tell you that uh, I was not like other journalists and photographers that Afghanistan was the space for them to cover the war and always like cover that black stories and mm, dark stories of war zone, So I went there like completely opposite side of that to cover the beauty, to cover the colors, to cover the resilience that always have been hidden under the news of war, So I think my goal was quite different. That's why you see in my photos that how I walked the streets of Kabul with those amazing Afghan women, Afghan sisters, and like how I highlight that beauty of colors into their clothes, from a textile to a hat, to the different faces, to the different locations. And as you know, I always tell it that I never grew up seeing the beauty and resilience of women of Afghanistan have been celebrated. So that's why I really wanted to give that a highlight. Nobody talk about this beauty of the Afghan woman green eyes, or those beautiful hair. I mean, so simple things, just a textile, like just the clothes that we have. It's a colorful country, and Afghan women have so many colorful clothes. Today, I mean, we have been forced to like wear burqa or like this dark, crazy hijab. That's not the real outfit of women of Afghanistan. That's not the real identity of us. And everyone, you see that in the cover of magazines, whenever they talk about a woman from Afghanistan, cover this burqa, always bring it up. Like they always bring burqa like to the face of the media and people, but that's not even for us.
Yeah, yeah. But what drove you to focus on these things? Because what I heard was that it seems like you wanted to highlight the part of Afghan women feminist
Yeah.
femininity that is rarely seen by the outside world. Is there another, do you think, like, what's the emotion behind it? Is it because you were moved by the beauty and you want to share it with the rest of the world? Or is it because you personally feel like it's healing while you highlight that part of femininity that other people don't get to see?
Yeah. So actually, this started from Tehran when I was there, when I was like seeing that how our neighbor country and the Iranian society look down to Afghans always, and never expect them to see them in another higher part. So imagine when I was at Tehran University, is one of the toppest universities in Iran. Even my classmate was like, "Oh my God, I never see an Afghan." In this university, in the art school, like or whenever I was talking about our poets or our artists or our queens, like in the history of Afghanistan, they had no idea, like the whole idea they had that it's a war zone, like women are in burqa, like people are just killing each other, like this terrorism stuff. But in fact, it was not just that. The thing that I really want to talk about it, um, far from everything in my works, is that how war and how the media can change the narrative of a country and destroy the culture and history and then change the narrative of a system and of a country, a country that one day all the tourists from Western countries used to go. We had the Buddha bombings, we had so many other things in our stories, but now nobody highlight that, and they kept reproducing the news of war, the news of, I mean, I don't want to ignore the reality. That's a part of the reality of Afghanistan. I don't want to glorify the war, but I just want to say that there is also another life there that we must, at least as Afghan, I must have I must cover that or also talk about that, and not forget that. So the thing is that when I was in there and I could see my mother and my sisters, and whenever I was talking with a friend about the women from Afghanistan, and in that time I started to have some exhibitions through my photos, and I started with burqa actually. Uh, it was always like this victim frame, And in 2013, when I went back to Kabul for the first time in 2015, then I realized I saw quite different things. Like the women were like the people that did how like everything changed, and they how they speak about everything so open. Like, I mean, that resilience, and even if they are in a hard situation, but still they're doing something to change the time and like, I mean, escape that oppression and stuff. But so that was the reason. That was the reason that I always wanted to get out of that victimized frame, victimized mindset, that I found that women of Afghanistan are the most brave, and
They need to be.
yeah, and their courage, because I mean, when you have that crazy situation and everybody are against you, and you have to have that crazy hijab or forced to not go to school, education, nothing, and you just like a lotus grew from that, and you escape all those crazy hard ways, and find your way. So that's so brave. And I found it so brave, not victim.
Yeah.
And that for me, I always say that women of Afghanistan are not victims. They are my heroes.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of, how and great grandparents, and they were born and raised in the era of China where we had a lot of wars, and there's also a lot of civil wars and
Yeah.
cultural revolution, and a lot of them lost everything they had, and they kept losing everything they had, right? But these people are actually the happiest people. Like when I was growing up, like I didn't know that they went through so much hardship because there's always a smile on their face. They get to
Yeah.
appreciate everything they have because of what they didn't have before. And
Exactly.
it's very easy to give up, right? In these
You're right.
situations, it's really hard to keep going on. And no matter what people's narrative is externally, internally they were never a victim, because if
You're
they
right.
were, they would not make it, right?
You're
In those
right.
times.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, and I'm curious because I felt like there's something that you didn't say, and I don't know if you agree with it. I almost felt like maybe you also felt it was healing for you to capture the beauty and resilience of Afghan women growing up in Iran, where you said that people, they were looking down upon Afghan, and that is like almost a part of you that I felt like you want to resurrect, and you wanted to show people, maybe perhaps it's to those voices that's in your past, and it was haunting you and made you feel like you're not accepted, that like, hey, this is my strength and you guys don't know anything better because you haven't seen this.
You're right. Yeah, I think I agree quite with your perspective that maybe it was like a healing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful because again, your story I think is the only one in the world. Is so unique. Like the amount of courage you have is like I just incredible. I sometimes I dream about airdrop myself into the middle of Kabul, but I never actually did it. I dream about it. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Okay, so after Taliban's return to power, you had to leave Afghanistan abruptly. How did this upheaval affect you personally and also professionally?
It was quite a hard time, in general, I want to say that when you're an artist and the source of your work is somewhere like close to your heart, and when you lose it, so it means that you are going to lose so many things, So leaving Kabul for me was still looks so hard, still hurt me when I think about it. But it was a big shock, and I lost the source of my works, Crystal. And that's so hard for an artist that work on a concept and research about that. And that project is growing, but it's cut in the middle, So, and then you jump to another wave of life and another chapter that even like forgetting the previous chapter and opening another chapter. So it's a hard journey. But I mean, the photo project that I started in 2018, in 2015 in Iran, and then in 2018 in Kabul. So I couldn't even finish that photo project, and I left it behind. For a long time, I was like fighting with that how those women in my photographs left Afghanistan and being safe to that I could publish the pictures. And then I started and I finished a project with women in Afghan women in exile in France, and I still like continuing that, but uh, it was so hard to shift now to another chapter of my life that I'm working on some project about exile. And also like I started my new project in Silk Road that it's also covering the resilience of women, but far from the borders of Afghanistan. So that's also a healing project. I think it's just started like the same project that always with healing. And I think for all artists, when you are full of questions and your challenges are based on some subject, so of course you go through that, and it's so real and so pure because it comes up from inside you, you know.
You're doing this for yourself first.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, but it affects my emotions and my feelings, and um, for sure, like my project that I couldn't finish it. And now I'm, and I think another venture, but still in the healing chapter, healing part of my life, you know.
And how did that make you feel when because it seems like there's a recurring theme based from, what I've heard from you is that you will do this project and something abrupt will happen. And then you wanted to move on and you will do another project and something abrupt will happen. Like, how did that make you feel when you couldn't finish something that you obviously were very passionate about and that's why you went and, wanted to do it? And how did it make you feel to start something new again and oftentimes in a different place?
Yeah, mm, it was so hard, you know, and it was not just about my project. It was about the whole concept of women in Afghanistan, you know. I mean, my photo project was a like little part of it, but imagine like at least for the last 7 years, I tried to showcase something different from women of my country. And now we get back to a stage that women cannot go back to school, you know, no education, no work, no freedom for women. And again, we get back to burqa, and that's forcing hijab and I mean, so many hard things that are going on in Afghanistan now, but I mean, there are not many news like that update us. But yeah, when the whole concept changed, that hurt me more than that I couldn't finish my projects. But yeah, starting a new project were also something even harder. But at least the thing I told you, it came from inside me. You know, like I mean, the recent project that I did was that I was listening to the music of Afghanistan, but about walking the streets of Paris, you know, and I was eating baguette, but I was thinking about that amazing, delicious naan that I used to buy from the bakeries in Kabul, you know. So I think some
Belonging and loss
exactly,
at
and
the
I
same
think
time.
yeah, in exile when I mean you physically transfer to somewhere else. You know, you're physically in New York, you're physically in Paris, but not mentally. You know, not your soul is there. You just left it somewhere behind, and that's I mean aligning your soul and spirit and everything to your physical body that it's present somewhere else. That's so hard. I think sometimes it just you lose your mind, but um, that's not an easy thing to handle it.
How did you use art and photography as a tool to reconcile, your emotions, your heart, your soul, and also your physical being?
I
Or
mean,
is it something that you're still working on?
yeah, I think I still have so long way to working on.
Yeah, I honestly I think because we're here in New York, and I know that you moved here about a year ago, right?
Like almost, yeah, I moved here in September.
Yeah. So and so it's about like 8 months ago.
Yeah,
And I just felt like you after you left Afghanistan, like left Kabul very abruptly, your life was just like you didn't even take a single breath to catch
yeah,
up with your life. It's just change after change. And every single time when you have inspiration, when you finally settle down, you
yeah,
were moving to another continent again.
you're right.
And did you did you have time to sit down and be like, how can I capture this time of my life in my work? Or is that something that you're still thinking about? Like, I wanted to understand what's your mental state right now when you're capturing all these different pieces of your life?
Yeah, thank you, Crystal, for your question. Actually, I mean, you're right. I think that my journey was so like in Russian, tap, 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 you know, and maybe that's also escaping of that loss, you know, that big loss that I had in my life. But I mean, in Paris, I think I quite in the 3 years, I had this time to sit and work on some projects there and also bring up, I mean, make it real, like some of the feelings that I had that you see my photo projects like in Exile there. And also my start of my Silk Road project started when I was in Paris, like I went to Central Asia. And in New York, to be honest, like still there are so many things to do here, and you see that how crazy it is. But I'm grateful for this opportunity to be in the academic area, like Parsons at the New School, and find out, like, diving into research and going through some archival works here, and have the opportunity to calm down and also like read more, search more. I mean, despite all this chaos you see in the city, but I think you're right. I think all this like moving and transferring was quite hard, but I think it was maybe also like an escape of that lost and loneliness, and maybe another kind of healing.
Right. It's the opposite, right?
You're right.
Instead of going into it, you're like moving away from it. But
You're right.
in the distance, there's a lot of emotions surging.
You're right.
So in one interview, you said that I don't want to be the voice of the voiceless. They have voices. How did you balance advocating to ensure that Afghan women to tell their own story? So, like, because you're telling your story through your work, through your
Yeah.
photography, you also want to make sure that they're telling their story through it. So, how do you balance that, the two voices?
I mean, yeah, because like so many times when they say like you're the voice of voiceless or this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I believe in that, but I don't believe in that. My journey is quite different from another woman from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Even from my classmate, even from women from my same story that I went through. So these things are quite different, I think, because so many panels and discussions that I have been invited in the past 3 years. You wanted to put me in a platform that, yeah, Fatima, you are the voice of the artists from Afghanistan, or you're voice of the women who got us. No, I'm not the voice of them. I mean, I'm just an example or a person that maybe can inspire other women. That I had also those hard journey. I was also a refugee. I'm still a refugee. I lived my life in exile, and I always had this identity crisis and never belonged to somewhere. And that's why the concept of home is quite different for me. I had also the challenges to be even an artist, and living in a war zone and left living my comfort zone to a war zone, and then another migrant now in the middle of nowhere. So that was quite hard, but um yeah, I just want to say that everybody has their own voice and how their own journey, and it just depends on then how you tell your narratives and how you want to impact others with your voice.
You wanted to showcase people that they can also use their own voices.
Clear.
Yes, I totally get it. Could you tell us a bit of what happened the day when Taliban took over Kabul? I know that you were there, and I also know that you were forced to leave. I wonder, it could be a bit triggering for you to describe the story, given it's very tragic. In the meantime, I do feel like it will benefit the listener to understand the gravity of what happened, especially when you're the person who saw this firsthand. So, could you tell us a little bit more of what happened that day?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it was such a sad day, and I talked about it a lot through different medias. But I mean, once again, I tell you a little bit of that. I mean, it was like a normal day in Kabul. Like I remember before that, Taliban took over 400 districts, and like some provinces were like under the control of Taliban in that time. But nobody expected that they come to Kabul. And in that time, in the same day I had a flight to Istanbul, and I could never imagine that how my journey is gonna change. But I was at my apartment like with normal days, and I mean was ready for my trip, and then I was in my balcony and saw all these Taliban fighters downstairs, and turned on the TV. I saw that Kabul was take over by Taliban, and then everybody were freaking out. I was crying, like calling my parents. Then after 2 days getting stuck at my house and not going anywhere, I could make it to the military side of the airport, and being there like for I think 2 days, and then left with the French military aircrafts and French evacuation to Paris. And still, it's unbelievable, but yeah, they took over Kabul overnight, you know, I mean, in few hours. And nobody could expect that because it was supposed to become to a deal, or when the president fled the country and when all the army just collapsed, and Taliban was there and they took the president palace. So it was quite a hard day, and everybody were freaking out given the dark experience of people of Afghanistan. Everybody knew that what was waiting for women of Afghanistan.
Right. And you said that you were trapped at home for 2 days. And then after that, how did you get to the airport?
I mean, we were with some friends. You know, there were also journalists, some of the artists, and we all like talked a lot about the Taliban and criticized what they have done and all these murders that they did, and all this ideology of Taliban. So I remember we went, like, we just took a taxi, and then we all were in this hijab and cover our faces. But it was just so many checkpoints, and every like hour, like some more checkpoints were added. But yeah, we went with the taxi, and then from another part of the airport, you couldn't go with the car, so we just walked there, and yeah, it was a horrible and crazy time that when you saw all those people behind the door and everybody wanted to escape the country, and that was so sad.
You walked to the airport.
Yeah, from I mean, as I told you, like, there were different checkpoints, and from a part of the, like, I think 2 or 3 kilometers far from the military side of the airport, the car were not allowed.
Right.
So we had to walk, and also, like, again, the checkpoints, you know, and the people, and like finding the soldiers, and it was like a big mess.
Right, right. And when you're in the airport for 2 days, how did they organize you guys to get onto the airplane, and also how did you know which country you were gonna go?
I had no idea which country I'm gonna go, but I just had some permissions of different embassies and different countries that I used to work with them when I was in Kabul. So it was Italy, Germany, France, US, and UK. And I didn't know which country I'm gonna end up, you know. But first, I was standing in the US line, but I knew in that time that I didn't want to be evacuated to USA because I want to be closer to my family, even though I was looking for a chance, like transit to go back to Tehran. But at the end, like, 3 French soldiers just they were taking care of the artists and journalists, so they hear my voice and took me to the shelter.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how nerve-wracking that must have been for you to be in this whole journey and not knowing your own fate for 4 days, and then just left everything behind, not even a passport, right? And you know, you had a place in Kabul, and then I assume you need to give it up.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, even I just, like, locked my door and took a backpack with my camera, hard drives, and laptop, because whatever I captured was inside them.
Right.
Yeah, left everything behind.
That's such a hard story. Many of our community members also struggle with not fully belonging in one culture or another. They're just like you know, maybe they're a third culture kid, or they're immigrants to another country, or, you know, they're refugees. Especially when their truth clash with what's expected of them as well, because, you know, you could be in a society where it has a certain expectation of you, but then, you know, maybe you grew up in a different culture, and your identity, you know, your value system could be very different from the society that you are in. So how have you navigated your own sense of identity between Afghan tradition, global art spaces, and Exile?
I mean, you know, like, as I, like, told it before, like, I think whatever happened in life, especially when you're an artist, like every step just can change your journey, you know. And the way that I navigate my, I mean, life in Iran, and then in Afghanistan, and then in France, and now in New York. So it was quite like challenging. I mean, it was full of challenges every step, you know. Even now, I mean, being here also is a big challenge, more challenging than Kabul, you know. So I think, yeah, I just accepted that this is life, you know. When you log into a concept that you wanna go till the end, so you have to accept all of this. I mean, I think the freedom that I always talk in the concept of Afghanistan about the women stories, you know, and the way that I wanted to tell my story, it cost me a lot, you know, it cost me to not being able to go back to my country, to be far from my family, and also this exile, you know, simply for portraying the women of Afghanistan and showing a little bit of that freedom that we deserve.
Yeah.
Not and talking against all those oppressions and all those restrictions that women have been going through. But yeah, and I paid for that, you know.
Were you ever scared when you knew, because you knew you were going to pay a price for it, and that includes your own freedom, right? That includes your own right in the country that you love. So were you ever scared of it? Or, and if you were, what was driving you forward, regardless?
I mean, you know, like in every stage of life, I think we are full of fears. You know, even now, I am full of fears, but in another concept. In Afghanistan as well, in Iran as well. So, the thing is that, as I told you, like if you believe in your works and if you have a goal that you want to reach there, so you escape or you just like fight or you deal with all these fears and. I mean, of course, it was a scary journey, you know, that, I mean, being a lone girl, like go back to a war zone and then live it alone with nothing to another foreign country and that you even don't know the language. And then finding your way there and then again jumping to another big city. So, yeah, I mean, as I told you, like when you accept the concept and when you accept that you are an artist and you want to fight for the goal and the ideology that you believe, you also have to be aware that it also like the cost must be high as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that cost, you know, like the stronger the belief it you have, you know, the higher of a cost you can endure, right? Because, you know, it's
right.
The faith is stronger than the fear itself.
You're right. We have a Persian slang in this case, say that "Har ke bamash pish, barfash bishtar." It means that if you have a bigger roof, you have more snow to clean.
Right. That's true. That's true physically. Okay, so last question, and this is a question I ask every single guest on the show.
Yeah.
Please finish a sentence. I am proud of myself because.
Wow. Okay, I am proud of myself that not give up in a patriarchal and very conservative and complicated society, to live my life as a woman and accept my femininity and respect my dignity and accept all the challenges in my life to be wherever I was dreaming to be one day.
Fatimah, you're definitely 100% a rebel, born and raised. And I'm so proud of you, my dear. Thank you so much to be on the show.
My dear, thank you.
If this conversation sparked something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are building a more true life, not just more impressive, we would love to hear your story. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Asian Rebel Club and join our newsletter for more ways to connect. Link in the description. Until next time.